Washoe County Library System welcomes you to a wonderful history series that delves into fascinating Nevada topics with local experts. The Nevada Historical Society presents High Noon with Neal Cobb. Today we have another very special program, How Captain George Whittell Saved Nevada's Lake Tahoe, with Bill Watson, Executive Director of the Thunderbird Lodge. My name is Terry, and I'm so happy to be hosting today. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Christina Hornbeck.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here standing in for Sherry Hayes Zorn, our curator of history. She's on vacation this week. I'm very excited about today's program. As a new member of the community, I like to enjoy different ways to learn more about the area. It is now my pleasure to introduce our longtime supporter and honorary curator of the Nevada Historical Society, Neal Cobb.
Thank you. I very much appreciate the introduction. Our speaker today is recorded from the series of Old Tales of Nevada. I'll explain a little bit later. Bill Watson is the chief executive and curator of the Thunderbird Lodge, the Preservation Society, a passionate historian that raised over $6 million to preserve the historic museum estate from demolition. In 2006, Bill co-founded the Foundation 36 with former casino colleagues to help safeguard Nevada's natural, cultural, and historic treasures. In 2011, he worked to save Red's Ranch in Lamoille, Nevada, from development. Red's Ranch is now a Nevada Heritage Park with artifacts from around the state that are restored and conserved and displayed to the public. Bill spent 30 years in the field of hospitality and gaming technology following the sale of his company, the Casino Marketplace. He served as general manager of Valley Gaming and Systems, retiring in 2003. Outside of his professional endeavors, Bill cherishes time spent in the serene landscapes of Lake Tahoe and Lamoille, Nevada. An enthusiastic outdoorsman, he enjoys exploring, hiking, biking, paddling, alongside his faithful Australian cattle dog. Just a little bit about the Thunderbird Lodge. The magical Thunderbird Lodge National Historic Site is the centerpiece of the Thunderbird Lake Tahoe. This historic home of George Whittell Jr. is a museum and learning center for the charitable programs of nonprofits, the Thunderbird Lodge Preservation Society, that was created back in 1999. In 2000, George Whittell Estate, Thunderbird Lodge, was added to the National Register of Historic Places. In addition to the Thunderbird Lodge, the historic site and Thunderbird Yacht, Thunderbird Lake Tahoe operates a variety of museums and collections for the public interpretation and education about topics of regional significance. Thunderbird safeguards more than 25,000 items in its extensive collection of Lake Tahoe maps, paintings, photography, drawings, artwork, documents, films, and 3D artifacts. We were able to come to the rescue with our good friend, Sam Coleman, and they went ahead and took one of the DVDs that we had recorded for Old Tales of Nevada, get it onto a flash drive, and go ahead and edit out the different commercials. I have complete authority to go ahead and utilize the 150 different programs that we did while recording Old Tales of Nevada, which was brought forward with a Texan by the name of Hugh Roy Marshall, whose whole approach to this was, in Texas, where I'm from, you mentioned Texas, and we're going to tell you all about it. We're going to toot our horn. And he says, here I am in Nevada, a beautiful state with a great history. And we got to get the word out because you have a lot to toot your horns for in the great state of Nevada. So he made this whole series possible. Went ahead and ran this past Bill. Bill Watson was all ready to do a live performance at the Historical Society. And last minute, he found out at Zoom, and he was not prepared to do Zoom. But he has given us the blessing of going ahead with what was recorded on Old Tales of Nevada. So at this time, please enjoy the interview at the Lake Tahoe Thunderbird Lodge.
Ladies and gentlemen, sit back and relax for the next hour as the CW Reno brings you Old Tales of Nevada. It's an hour of rich Nevada history and current day success stories hosted by scholar, historian, and world-renowned gold and silver baron Hugh Roy Marshall.
We're back here in Old Tales of Nevada, past and present. John O'Brien here with you, along with Hugh Roy Marshall, Neal Cobb, and our special guest, Bill Watson, who is with the great mansion we're sitting in front of right now, Thunderbird at Lake Tahoe, which is not just a house by any means. This is quite the architecture. And Bill, we want to welcome you to the show.
Yeah, welcome, Bill.
Well, thank you, folks.
Yeah. And you're the manager and curator.
Manager and curator of the Thunderbird Preservation Society.
Yeah, for how long have you been here now, Bill?
This will be the start of my 7th season here at Thunderbird Lake Tahoe.
Fantastic.
Well, it looks like you're enjoying every minute of it so far.
Yeah.
Heck of a place to call the office.
Yeah.
There you
Well,
go.
listen, we're going to be talking to you in just a minute. I wanted to go to you, Roy, because we always start the show by asking you, Roy, why we do the show every week, both on TV and radio. So you, Roy, why don't you give us that?
Well, you betcha. How's everybody doing?
We're doing great. How could you be feeling bad?
Feeling any bad at all in a beautiful place like this?
Yeah.
Well, the reason why we do this show is to present the history of the area so that people can be proud of living here and come to know how it got to be so famous, our area here.
Yes.
And of course, the area during and after the Civil War, we call this state battle-born for more than one reason. After the Civil War, the United States of America was totally broke. We owed more than what we were worth to France, Germany, and England. And Abraham Lincoln relied upon the Comstock miners to dish out about 6 million ounces of silver and gold to pay for this Civil War debt. And that began the first part of what became the United States of America after the Civil War.
Yeah, in fact, where we're sitting had a big part to
to
help get the gold and silver out of the Comstock.
Yeah, you betcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also we developed the first U.S. dollar here in this area by a guy by the name of Morgan, who it was minted at the Carson City Mint, which
That's
is
right.
just on the other
Just
side
on
of the
the
hill.
other side of the hill here.
And all of us in this world make some mark on the earth, some deeper, some less deep. But the owner of this place made a very deep mark because he was a very avid entrepreneur and businessman involved in mining, lumbering, and many of the things for which our area is famous.
For sure.
And
Conservation of open space.
yeah, so we can be
absolutely.
very proud of our area because of this place, and certainly because of Bill Watson here taking care of it.
Yeah, Bill's efforts in a lot of ways is the reason why this building is here and open to the public and still surviving, despite a lot of efforts, actually.
That's what he's been
to turn it
explaining
down.
to us. I guess
Or
it
tear
wasn't
down.
that easy of a job, actually. You had quite a few things against you from the start.
Yeah.
Like many historic sites, Thunderbird Lodge is a national historic resource at risk.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
and we're going to be talking a lot about that. I want to go to Neal Cobb. You know, he's our honorary curator, at the Nevada Historical Society. I always have to say that, otherwise we won't show up for the show.
Oh, he loves to say it to see if he can get it right after he found out there was actually such a thing.
There is a real title involved there. But you also put out a magazine, Neal, you and your friends, called Nevada in the West, right?
Yeah, and even one of the past issues, the one that had a 1950 shot of Las Vegas on the cover, featured in the middle of it, the Thunderbird.
Right,
And
where
a
we sit.
nice article written by Bill.
Yeah.
And it was just super. We have the current issue out right now, and there's some other great stories in this. We've got one that I love to go through, and that's by Jerry
Well, I'm gonna
Aaron,
go here for you
another
guys to take a look at.
individual that we've had on our program.
This is some
that
gold from my
written
mine.
this
This is
book on
some
the
product.
highways and asphalt ribbons and whatever. It's all about the trucking industry. In any case, he wrote about the first automobile that was delivered to Lovelock, Nevada in 1903. So this is a fun history adventure going through all of these different stories, finding out, like in the last one, that the USS Reno was a rather highly decorated ship in World War II, along with the BB-36, the Nevada.
Right. So
Yeah.
where can we get your magazine?
Hey, we can get the magazine up at the Historical Society, over at Sundance, up at the Mark Twain bookshop up there in Virginia City, and over there I've got a fella at 1203 Rock Street. He's got the Sparks bookstore, and it's on the shelf right now. Take a look, or look us up on the web, NevadaInTheWest.com.
All right, thank you so much. We're sitting here in the treasure of the Sierra, right? That's what they call Lake Tahoe, but I got a treasure in my hand here. Right carries this around for pocket change,
Amazing.
This is gold and it's right from the Comstock, is that right?
The piece of gold here comes from out in Ione.
Oh, is that right?
The other pieces of gold were melted out of concentrates from up at the
Now that's
Comstock.
placer, isn't it?
No, this is a piece I got right out of the wall rock, then polished it.
Oh,
It's,
okay.
Oh, it's beautiful.
That's beautiful. How many ounces? 30? 10?
No, it's about 12 ounces.
12 ounces. Let's see. What was gold today? About 1,600 an ounce. That's not too bad right there, huh?
Yeah.
That'll pay the rent.
This is a 5-ounce
want this?
bar here.
I'd love to be the waiter in the restaurant that receives that as a tip.
Yeah, there you go, there you go. Well, we got to always show a little gold here. That's,
Well, we have
that's
a
what
lot of
the
things
area's
to
all
be
about.
proud of, and
Yeah.
of course, Uroy has the Silverland Inn and Suites up there in Virginia City, along with the Marshall Mint. So make sure you visit those places when you're on the Comstock. But when you're at Lake Tahoe, this is a stop you don't want to miss.
Yeah,
This-
most definitely.
Yeah, and Tahoe is a place to come, and the Thunderbird is a place you definitely want to put on your agenda. Now, let's talk about the history of this building, Bill. Buildings, I should say, compound,
Correct.
whatever you want to call it.
Total of 9 buildings.
9 buildings altogether.
Buildings on
Okay.
the property.
Now, it was originally thought of and put together by a name of George Whittell, right?
George Whittell Jr.
Junior. Okay.
George Whittell inherited his family fortune. They made their fortune in the gold rush of 1849, the California gold rush, and subsequently he inherited that family fortune.
Isn't that amazing? Very substantial amount of money.
Considerable.
And I guess the family kind of got their start by lending money to the gold miners as a grub stake, and they got a piece of the action.
Well, that's correct,
Yeah.
John. There's a bit of Nevada history here too, because his grandfather Nicholas Looning, who was really the genesis of the family fortune, after whom the town of Looning, Nevada is named.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Very good,
so
very
there
good.
is a considerable Nevada connection. They were also principal owners of the Eureka Palisades Railway. So it's quite a family history.
Yeah, and a lot
there.
of money.
Right, a lot of money,
Yeah,
lot of
now-
money.
Now, George, he was kind of known as a playboy, as I understand it. Is that right?
A bon vivant.
Bon vivant, whatever that
That's a
means.
nice,
Yeah,
that's
the
a nice
bond
term.
area.
That's a good term.
The
yeah.
gentleman sportsman,
Uh-huh.
Raconteur, he was certainly, he was into the 4 Gs, gambling, girls, giraffes, and gadgets.
All right, so he's pretty much in the right place for all of that, I suppose. Huh?
Right.
Now, how did he find his way to Lake Tahoe? How did this become his place of dwelling, and how did that all transpire?
Well, that's kind of a 2-part story. To tell you how he came to Lake Tahoe, you have to go back to the summer of 1929. In 1929, the Whittell family had about 50 million invested in the markets, and the markets were skyrocketing that summer.
Right.
And so young Whitell convinced his family to to liquidate their holdings in the markets.
Did he have some information, inside information?
Well, he convinced his family to convert all their corporate securities to government-backed bonds and gold, which they would deposit into Canadian banks.
Okay.
With that one act of foresight, young Whitell not only insulated his family from the effects of the Great American Depression, but from Roosevelt's subsequent exit from the gold standard as well. They were in liquid net worth, one of the top 10 wealthiest families in America during the Depression. Later, when asked by a San Francisco Chronicle reporter, Mr. Whitell, how did you know? You know, in October of '29, the crash, his friends were jumping out of the windows of Wall Street. All he would reply was this. He said, when men stop gambling and drinking and chasing women, the bloom is off the rose. It's time to do something different. That's the only cryptic answer he ever gave for his insight to the market. And life was truly good until that summer in 1931 when California enacted the state income tax. And Whitell declared, no government's going to have its hand in my pocket. So he moved to the One Sound State, debt-free Nevada, and took up residence in the Riverside Hotel in Reno, Nevada.
Isn't that fantastic? What a story. That's a fantastic story.
So he lived there, and then he must have come to Lake Tahoe for recreation, entertainment, whatever.
Well, Lake Tahoe in 1931, 32, and 33 was a very different kind of place than we have today. The hills have been denuded of timber for the Comstock lode many years before. The second growth was only starting to come back.
Okay.
And so this land became available. First, the Hobart family of Hobart Lumber, Sierra Nevada Wood Lumber and Fluming Company, they made their land available. And Whitell acquired this property for $6 an acre for the shorefront, $3 an acre for the backcountry. It was considered worthless. The fledgling U.S. Forest Service was in the process of trying to acquire it, but they had no funds available during those Depression years. But Whitell had cash because he'd liquidated his holdings in the markets before the crash. So he was able to pay cash, approximately $3 million he paid for what eventually became 45,000 acres. Nearly the entire Nevada shoreline of Lake Tahoe.
About 20 miles, didn't you say?
25, 26 miles, depending whose numbers you use.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
That's amazing. So here
Very
he was, and he was
important
originally going to do lumber activity on it, or was it going to be for development like casinos and that sort of thing?
Originally, Whitell planned to develop his Lake Tahoe property. We have maps here at Thunderbird Lodge showing the entire east shore divided into 100-foot wide by 600-foot deep house lots.
Oh, that would have been a shame.
He began constructing a casino at what is now Sand Harbor State Park, just
right
around
down
the
here.
bend.
Yeah, sure.
And we could only imagine that once he built his famous Thunderbird Lodge, he looked down and said, I don't want to look at a casino. And then he tore down the casino he started constructing.
Really?
And he axed all of his development plans and, for the most part, never liquidated any of his holdings. The house, the boat, the other things you'll see here today are the visible monuments to George Whitell, the real legacy he left all of us in Nevada. Is all of this wide open space we enjoy on the east shore. The Nevada side of the lake does not look like the California side of the
not
lake,
at all.
but for George Whitell.
Right. In fact, this is the only large residential structure between, say, Incline
And Glenbrook.
And Glenbrook.
Correct.
Yeah,
Now,
you said
this is a historic district.
This is a historic district, the same as Virginia City.
Yeah, and the name of it is actually what we...
yeah, it's a big long one.
The official name of this site is the George C. Whitell Jr. Thunderbird Lodge National Historic District.
Boy, that's a mouthful.
Yeah,
but
it's
it's
a good one.
wonderful.
When he moved up here, well, we'll get to the structure and everything else, but he lived here with his wife, and did he have children at that time, or with him, or?
George Whitell had no children that we know of, and we think it's fairly reliable that he never did, and because no one ever came out of the woodwork on his death. Okay, and with unreliable contraceptives of the time. If there was an accident and there was an heir somewhere, they certainly would have come out of the woodwork.
Actually, it's a blessing in disguise. Otherwise,
Yeah.
it could have been
It wouldn't have happened.
eliminated.
Yeah.
It allowed this
Developed by
property
this-
to go
yeah.
into the public trust.
So he lived here basically with his wife.
Lived here with his third wife, Elia.
Okay.
However, she thought that San Francisco was barely cultured enough for a Parisian of her stature, and the Tahoe was where the Neanderthals lived. So she didn't care much for Lake Tahoe, so she would come here for but a few days at the beginning of each summer, and then she would retire to her chateau in France, leaving Whittel here in the company of his longtime housekeeper, general manager, and mistress, May Mulhagen.
Oh,
Okay.
how about
well,
that?
That must have been fun.
How about that?
Now, he was known as that kind of a person, though. He, like you said, you know, gambling, girls, that sort of thing. But I guess in later years, he kind of turned his focus because he became more of a recluse over the years.
That's correct, John. In 1941, December, we know what happened. Japan bombed Pearl Harbor. Whittel promptly offered his services to the U.S. government for service in the military, having served with distinction in World War I. He was 60 years old that year, and the government declined, effectively saying, "Go away, old man." Something changed that winter of 41-42. Whittel began to lose interest in his mistress, began drinking more heavily, lost interest in many of his projects, halted construction here at Thunderbird Lodge, and he became more reclusive and more withdrawn. He stopped going out on the Thunderbird boat, and he kept more to himself. And it's unfortunate that we're going to remember Whittel for that reclusivity, that eccentricity of midlife and beyond, and rather for his contributions earlier in life as a young man.
What a beautiful spot we're sitting in right now.
Well, thank you, John. Thank you, Hugh Roy, Neal, for having me.
Job. I see your maintenance people, your garden people
Yeah.
out there doing their thing today. So
We run the historic site with only 4 employees.
Yeah.
All the rest of us are volunteers. It takes over 100 volunteers to keep Thunderbird Lake Tahoe operating.
that's amazing.
fantastic.
Amazing.
That's great.
What's
really
what's
great.
this in front of us, by the way? I know people are probably wondering, so let's just tell them and get that part of the structure out of the way.
Well, this is not a coffee table. It's a blowhole. These blowholes were put into the stone dock. We're sitting on a stone dock, and this is where Whittel's boats would arrive. And these blowholes were inserted to relieve the pressure as the water rises. And these wood covers keep the water from spouting up as we're sitting here talking.
So at any
That's
time,
good.
we can
If we
all
go
get wet.
flying in the air, you'll know what happened.
But anyway, the structure itself began to be built in 1936, correct?
Correct. Whittel started construction in late 35, early 36. First occupied the property in 1937.
Okay.
Continued construction until 1941.
41. Wow, that's a lot of years
About
of
5 years,
construction.
yeah.
Now let's get it out of the way. We're sitting in around all of this stone, and the building itself is stone. And where did they get all of this stone from?
Well, the stone was harvested from Agate Bay Quarry right across the lake and barged over to the site. The
Okay.
flat stones on the sidewalks are called Pluto stone from Mount Pluto over by North Star Squaw Valley area.
Okay.
Everything you see here was built by high school students. The
Isn't that
students,
something? That
the
is very
students of the Stewart Indian School in Carson City, these young men were known throughout the American West for their mastery of stonemasonry, and you can find examples of their work in the great parks of America's West and throughout the mansions all around this area.
All of those right
Would
now.
like Yellowstone Park, Glacier Park, those kind of national parks have some of that?
Those
work in
that you might find some of their work at those parks as well.
That's around the Stewart Indian,
Yeah.
where the school was. Those were all hand quarried.
there? Yeah. Yeah, they
They'll
say
find
they
the
want to
same
put
ones.
the fair down there one of these days.
Yeah, they
actually.
might.
Yeah,
They
they
might.
might do that. But anyway, who was the architect? We have a very famous architect locally here.
Yeah, yes, Frederick de Longchamps, Nevada's first and only state architect.
Yes.
Nevada has had no other state architect since Frederick de Longchamp, who is famous for his public buildings throughout Nevada.
Big
Yeah.
time. The Riverside.
Riverside,
courthouse,
the
yeah.
courthouse.
Allen.
Correct.
All over.
Yeah, we talk about him a lot on the show.
Yeah.
Now, he didn't have such an easy time with Mr. Whittel.
No.
They went back and forth on a lot of details. Didn't they?
Frederick de Longchamps once remarked that Whittel was his most difficult customer. And keep in mind, he asked DeLongchamps to design for him a small log cabin on the shores of Lake Tahoe. Had that first design been executed, we'd have something more akin to the Ponderosa Ranch House of Bonanza fame.
Which we're not too far from.
Which we're not too far from. We can only imagine the influence of the French wife as we enjoy this Tudor revival style mansion we have today.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So he got involved, and so how long, you said it was about a 2-year primary construction on the project. How many rooms are in the mansion itself?
The main house only has 2 bedrooms for the gentleman and the lady of the house, as was custom of the time, separate sleeping quarters for the husband and wife. Only did the working class, did a husband and wife share a bedroom. If you could afford it, you had 2. If you could really afford it, if you've ever been to the Henry Ford house in Dearborn, there were 3. One for him, one for her, and one for meeting in the middle.
No kidding.
So, but the main house only has 2 bedrooms. The main house has only 2 general sleeping quarters. In the basement, there are some servants' bedrooms.
Okay.
And then we enjoy all the cottages throughout the grounds. The married servants lived in the cottages throughout the grounds. The unmarried servants lived in the basement of the main house.
Each one of them is unique. It's following the same style of architecture. Each one of them a work of art.
Yeah,
incredible, really. Incredible art.
What about the Thunderbird, Bill? Where do you think he got that? Did he like that? I see there's also a Thunderbird on the house up there, or...
That's correct. The Thunderbird appears throughout the property in the artwork and is a recurring theme throughout many of Wattell's projects. He had a DC-2 aircraft named Thunderbird. He had the boat named Thunderbird. We don't know why he chose that name. We can only imagine, because the Thunderbird is often the top totem on the totem pole with the outstretched wings, the most powerful of all of the Native American animal gods, omnipresent, omnipotent.
That's why he chose it, yeah.
Wattell loved to walk into a room and be the center of attention. That's why we imagine he chose Thunderbird.
Like he figured that out.
So he had this original structure built, and but that's not the only thing we see here on the property.
Nope.
There were ownership changes over the years, and then buildings added, right, and additions to the house.
There was really only one significant addition made to the house after Wattell. In 1969, Wattell was dying, and his remaining lands and the estate was sold to Jack Dreyfus, the New York financier, the Lion of Wall Street. Dreyfus Fund, we've all heard of him. Jack Dreyfus acquired this property for 2 purposes. One, to entertain and lobby executive branch officials and congressional legislators coming from Washington, D.C., and to basically convey the balance of the lands to the public trust at a profit to Jack Dreyfus. He sold much of this land that he acquired from Wattell to the United States government, Forest Service, or to the state of Nevada. And over the years, the property eventually went from 45,000 acres down to 145. In 1999, Dreyfus sold this property to Del Webb Corporation in what was then the highest priced single-family residential real estate transaction ever consummated to date in the United States. $56 million in 1999.
Wow.
Now, one might ask, why would Del Webb acquire this?
Yeah, why would he?
It was acquired so that they could swap this land and property for property outside of Las Vegas for development to the U.S. government.
Is that the one Harry Reid was involved with?
No, no, it was before that, before then.
Yeah.
And so this property was exchanged. The land went to the U.S. Forest Service, and the buildings and a 6-acre reservation around the buildings were conveyed to the nonprofit Thunderbird Lodge Preservation Society, who is responsible for caring for these buildings and educating the public about the contributions of George Wattell.
Oh, wonderful. Now, so you had a note on this place, right? That you had to pay on year after year. How?
Initially,
Yeah.
Initially, there was a $10 million note payable to Del Webb on the property, and it took many years and the generosity of many private contributors to settle that note. But today, the Preservation Society owns this property outright.
Wonderful.
And I have to tip my head to Pulte Homes, Del Webb's successor, and to Donald W. Reynolds Foundation.
Oh, okay.
They made this transaction happen.
Yeah, Reynolds has a property down here towards Incline, right,
That's
on,
correct.
right on the beach. Beautiful spot as well.
Right.
Not anything like this, but
Right.
very nice. So there is an overhead on this property. It has to be. You can't maintain an older structure like this without spending money on it year after year. What's your overhead every year on this thing?
To operate Thunderbird Lodge is approximately $1 million a year in operating revenue. Now understand, we host 10,000 visitors a year and 2,000 to 3,000 school children as part of our public education programs.
Yeah.
We're a public charity and we receive no government support. All of our support comes from contributions from private individuals and families. $1 million a year to operate Thunderbird Lodge for insurance, electricity, water. We're off the grid here. Our water comes out of Lake Tahoe. Our sewage has to be trucked off the property. And many times in the winter, we're running on our own diesel generating plant.
That's amazing. Yeah, so that's unusual to get the water out of Lake Tahoe for drinking water. How many residences along the lake can have that opportunity? Is that grandfathered in or something?
It's very unique for a single family residence, such as
Yeah.
this was, to draw its water from Lake Tahoe.
Yeah. Now, do you have to purify it or anything when you?
We have a water treatment plant,
Uh-huh.
just like you would have in a municipal water
Really?
authority here at Thunderbird Lodge.
no wonder
Well,
you-
all of the associated cost of operating.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
You know, no wonder you have such a high overhead there. But you're getting it covered, not by much, but you're probably getting it covered.
There are
Every
major
year it's
costs to
great.
doing that. I'm on a well and I just replaced the pump.
Right.
And there's a heck of a difference between a 1 horsepower and a 1.5.
Yeah.
About
I understand.
$1,000.
So this whole area is open to the public, and you have tours every day or part of the week, or how's that?
Except for Mondays, huh?
From May through October, we offer public tours here at Thunderbird Lake Tahoe. We're open for public tours from May through October, and access to Thunderbird Lodge is by appointment only. You must schedule a reservation for one of our public tours.
9 buildings, you said?
That's
Altogether?
correct. 9 buildings here.
Yeah, and just beautifully done, beautiful setting. What pride it gives us just to be sitting here. You know, you, Roy?
Oh, yeah. And the
this
fact
is-
that they were built by Indian school children
Yeah,
is
what
really
an
a
accomplishment
phenomenal
that is.
accomplishment.
Yeah.
Probably should say part of that on the National Register.
That's for sure.
yeah.
We've seen our little resident guard dog running around. That's Kaylee.
Callie the Thunder Pup.
Callie the Thunder Pup.
Yeah.
She owns the place, right?
It's Callie's house.
But as we left for break, we were talking about your tours. You're open most of the week.
Right. Tuesday through Saturday.
Tuesday through Saturday. You have kids come up from school. You have
A lot of field
individuals come
trips.
up. It's by appointment, though, right?
Yep, reservations only.
Okay, but that's not your only source of funding.
We support Thunderbird Lake Tahoe through our public tours, also by renting the facility for compatible corporate and wedding type events. We also have an aggressive membership program. We're supported entirely by the public at large, and any member of the public can become a member of the Thunderbird Lodge Preservation Society. Memberships start at $100 a year and go up from there. You can always visit our website at www.thunderbirdtahoe.org.
Okay, so how many? You said 10,000 people come in to visit. What's the average price for a tour? Say if I was an adult with 2 kids and.
Depends how you arrive.
Yeah.
The different tour operators charge different amounts.
Oh, I
the
see.
regular public tours from the Incline Village Visitors Center, where you take a shuttle bus in here,
Oh.
those tours are $39 for adults
Okay.
and $19 for children 12 and under.
Okay.
And boat tours tend to be a little more expensive. Those arriving on the tour boats
Sure.
from South Lake Tahoe, Tahoe Woodwind Cruises runs a tour boat in here every day. Action Water Sports at the Hyatt Lake Tahoe also runs a tour boat over here.
Okay. Now, is it a long tour? I mean, how long can you spend out here? Do they have? Is it a guided tour?
It is
self-guided
a-
tour.
All of our tours at Thunderbird Lake Tahoe are docent guided tours,
Okay.
and an average tour is about 90 minutes.
Oh, that's not bad. That's not bad. Can you get something to eat up here if you want? Is there?
For our members during special events, we do offer food here and for member events and parties.
So if you're going to come for a tour, you bring your own food.
Yeah,
You have
Yeah.
picnic areas up here too?
no, The boat tours enjoy meals on the dock here at Thunderbird Lodge. The bus tours return to the visitors center and to Incline Village for lunch.
The value of your docems, is that the same as like at the Historical Society where we couldn't run without them?
Exactly. We couldn't run Thunderbird without the volunteer base here, and they are truly what make this
And
place
they're every
tick.
bit as knowledgeable as you are?
Every one of them knows a lot more than I know.
Oh, I find that hard to believe, but I'm going to go for it.
You're doing a pretty good job.
Oh,
there.
he
Yeah,
knows his
excellent
stuff.
job, excellent
Yeah.
job.
Now the other great attraction to the area we're in right now is that boat that's in the boathouse.
The Thunderbird yacht.
Thunderbird yacht, yeah. And that thing, tell us about the history of that boat, how it came to be and who's been on it, that sort of thing.
Well, we can walk down there and
Yeah.
take a look momentarily. But the Thunderbird yacht was commissioned by George Whittell in 1939. He wanted a commuter boat that could handle the chop picked up by our afternoon Zephyr winds here at Lake Tahoe.
Sure.
He wanted something that looked like his Duesenberg automobiles and his DC-2 aircraft.
Wow.
So we have this very stylized Art Deco design commuter boat. It was principally used to run mail and groceries between the villages of Crystal Bay and Zephyr Cove and Thunderbird Lodge. So we like to joke it was a 1940 equivalent of a soccer mom's SUV. And
Yeah, there you go. What does it
Whittell,
cost to run that thing in an hour?
well, today it costs nearly $5,000 an hour
Yeah.
to operate the Thunderbird yacht.
Pretty
Our operating expense on the boat is about $200,000 to $300,000 a year, and we use it principally for donor incentives to generate the funds needed to operate Thunderbird Lodge, but more important, for our Kids Maritime Heritage Program. Kids don't get access to a treasure like that, and we have some great programs for the kids here where they get to wrench on the boat and go out and do things with the Thunderbird yacht.
Now we're going to go back down to the boathouse and take a look at that
Okay.
in a few minutes, but just tell us how that boat got away from here and how it got back.
Well, George Whittell used the boat extensively in the summers of 1941 and 42. And by 1942, he was beginning to lose interest. The war was in progress, and he had a fear that the government might take his boat. So he effectively hid the boat in the boathouse, lifting her up on her hoist for one last time. And as near as we can tell, she was only operated once between then and 1962.
Really? Wow.
In September of 1962, casino owner Bill Harrah came a-calling. He had a famous car collection in Sparks at the time. We're all familiar with the car collection. And he was interested in two of Whittell's Duesenbergs. And so he asked Whittell to sell him two Duesenbergs, and somehow they got on the topic of a boat. And Whittell said, "Boat, I'll show you a damn boat." And he took Bill Harrah down the tunnel and showed him the Thunderbird yacht, and it was love at first sight. Bill Harrah negotiated a deal and went home that night with the Thunderbird yacht and two Duesenbergs. Whittell permitted Harrah to keep the boat here in the wintertime. Harrah operated the boat, made some changes to it, but that began the golden age of the Thunderbird yacht. This was the boat that Harrah used to entertain the entertainers. I have pictures of Sammy Davis Jr. and Tony Bennett and Liberace and so many more being entertained on the Thunderbird boat.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, what a historical piece of
It is.
machinery that
Yeah.
is, huh? So, but then it was sold. Harris sold it, right?
Bill Harrah sold it to Bill Harrah died intestate without a will. Holiday Inn acquired the assets of the Harrah's casinos, and they began divesting themselves of the Harrah's auto collection, another chapter in our history. One of the first items divested was the Thunderbird yacht, and it was sold to a collector in the San Francisco Bay Area, Mr. Owens, but unfortunately he was unable to collect the boat, dying of leukemia only a short time thereafter. The boat then passed to the Gibb family. And the Gibb family operated the boat on the San Francisco Bay for a number of years. Following the divorce, Mrs. Gibb ended up with the boat, and she joined the board of directors here, allowing the boat to come back home to Thunderbird Lodge.
How about that?
Through her generosity and a succession of transactions, the boat is hopefully here to stay.
Now there's a different boathouse. The original boathouse is behind us, right?
Correct. The original boathouse is just over your right shoulder there, John, and that was converted to a swimming pool. And that boathouse was too small, so Whitell constructed the new steel structure just east of here for the Thunderbird yacht. We'll take a look down there, and there's some interesting history about that old boathouse too that we'll share a little later on. Hey, John, why don't we head on over to the boathouse and take a look at the Thunderbird
Hey,
yacht?
I'm all for that. Let's go. We're here on the boat, the Thunderbird, and Bill Watson is with me. He's the manager and curator for the whole development out here. And Bill, tell us about this boat. Like, for example, you know, how many engines does this thing have? This thing, what's it made of? It looks beautiful.
Well, Thunderbird has made a double planked Honduran mahogany over a frame of Eastern sawn red oak.
Wow.
She's 55 feet long with stainless steel cabin tops. And she's been clocked at near 70 miles an hour. Bill Cara called her his 70-mile-an-hour cocktail lounge.
Ooh, 70 miles an hour on the water. That's like, I never heard of such a thing. What's the weight on the boat? How...
Thunderbird weighs approximately 18 tons. She's powered by twin Allison World War II aircraft engines out of a P-38. Would you like to hear?
I would.
Well, we're going to start just one of the engines.
Oh, just
today,
one.
John.
Okay. We're going to blow the
We
roof
have to
off.
start Thunderbird much like we do an airplane. All of her controls are similar to an aircraft. So we have ignition on. We are going to pre-oil and build up a little oil pressure. We're going to turn on the ignition switch. We're going to turn on the mags for the port or left engine. Give her a little fuel boost, a squirt of primer, throttle cracked.
Sounds like you're making a cocktail here.
And we're going to roll the engine and... There we have it.
That is powerful, and it's sweet. How old is that engine now?
Well, these engines are vintage 1943.
43. Sound like they're brand new. Yeah. Now you have one. Your captain takes care of all of the.
Captain and a team of volunteers and mates take care of the Thunderbird yacht.
Yeah.
And they work on her all year round.
Wow. Wow. Now tell us who's been on this boat. Give us a few examples of who was able to take a ride on the boat.
Well, we've had presidents, Ford and Clinton, on board.
Really?
We've had kings, queens, heads of state. We've had Tony Bennett, Liberace. I have a picture of Sammy Davis Jr. right there on the stern playing with his two kids.
Okay, so they'd pick them up down there at the hotel and then take them out for a day on a boat, huh?
The guest would stay at his estate, and the boat would spend most of her summer at the dock at Skyland, returning to the Thunderbird boathouse in the winter.
Okay. Now, they spend the nights here on the boat, too? Because I noticed it has sleeping quarters back there, doesn't
No,
it?
they're just berths. They're cocktail berths. They're for when you collapse after a few evening cocktails. But you're welcome to go below.
Yeah, let's go down. Let's go down and take a look at the lounge, your galley. You rent this out to individuals today? If a party wants to use it, will you?
We don't rent the boat, but for a significant donation, we'll take you and your friends for a gratitude ride.
Okay, very nice, very nice. This cockpit, okay, so you started the engines back there. Now, what's all this up here?
The Thunderbird has two helms called the docking helm or maneuvering helm.
And then you have the little, like we were talking about.
This is called the chain locker. And this is where the anchors are stored.
All right.
And fenders and other equipment that we use during the course of a cruise. Thunderbird had 4 searchlights on the cabin top.
All right.
And so those are the controls.
All right, very good. Well, listen, Bill, you've given us a great tour today.
Well, I'm glad.
It's a chance of a lifetime to see this boat, really.
Well, it's been great. Let's go back up to the dock.
Yeah, let's go back up to the dock. We're back up here on the dock. That was a great tour of the boat there, Bill.
Wasn't that something?
Outstanding. I've been waiting all week, actually for a couple of months, to see that boat in person.
Yeah, we've been
and
talking about it.
I am totally impressed. And anytime you want to invite me out for a tour, you know, with one of these movers and shakers that you say get on the boat, I'll be happy to come along. How's the food on the boat?
Food is awesome. Food is awesome.
No, that's great. What a treasure that is.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Wonderful, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I meant to ask you, in today's prices, how do you value something like this treasure we have here on Tahoe? Or what do you say to people when they ask a dumb question?
That is a dumb question.
Well, I'm from New England originally, and an old stone house on a blue lake with an old wooden boat hanging from the rafters of the boathouse, they're a dime a dozen in New England. This is Nevada's only house museum estate at Lake Tahoe National Historic District. We don't have any other homes like this. And so this truly is a Nevada treasure. She's priceless.
That's the way I'd have to describe it.
She is
to be
priceless.
honest with you. Yeah.
Oh, certainly.
When the season's over and you have to button down for the winter, what kinds of precautions do you take to safeguard this facility?
During the winter, we have to pull all of the furniture and the artifacts. You notice a lot of artwork on the buildings. A lot of that comes down so it won't be damaged by the winter storms. But we do not close in the winter time. Our staff is here 24/7, 365, and we're open to our members for special events, holiday parties, and fundraisers all year round.
Amazing. So you have people that live right here on the property.
That is correct.
Unbelievable.
That is correct.
What a job. Where do you apply?
That makes it a year-round operation.
We are a year-round operation.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, some of the functions that you put on here are pretty extravagant. You've had some pretty amazing weddings and different things that
Correct. Fundraising winemakers dinners. We had Captain Sully Sullenberger last year for our speakers series. We have some great guests coming up this year. But because we need to continuously drive that public support to keep the site open, we have to do these kind of fundraisers. And we've had great support from the community.
Now, how do they get in touch with the property if they do want to put on a function? Are you open to pretty much anything? Are you open to suggestions, or do you limit it just to weddings or anniversary parties, that kind of thing?
We have to undertake activities which are compatible with the historic site. Obviously, this site is not conducive to certain kinds of parties and affairs. And so, as long as it's a compatible function, to find out more information about the kinds of events you can have here and the kind of activities, best thing to do is hit our website at thunderbirdtahoe.org.
Yeah. Now, do people come from all over the world to see this beautiful spot, or is it pretty well known globally?
Thunderbird Lake Tahoe is getting more globally recognized. For example, if you open the Classic Boating magazine in Norway this month, you'll find a feature article on Thunderbird Lodge and the Thunderbird Yacht here in Nevada.
There you go. There you go. That's great. Now, you said just this past week you had 3 different programs that you've been interviewed for.
That's correct. We've had a number of national networks out this week doing their early summer publicity and travel shows and such in order to promote visitation to Lake Tahoe, and most important, to our special historic site here.
Yeah. Now, do you plan on adding any more structures to the property, or are you kind of limited because of the area where you sit, or do you want to even do that?
Because we're a national historic site, we are limited in the types of changes and adaptive reuses we can undertake here at the property. So what you see here today is pretty much how this property will look for generations to come.
Well,
all of our work is designed to restore and maintain the property for its period of significance, which we tend to target as being 1937 to 1941.
Yeah. Now, do you have significant deterioration because of the lake there? I know I used to be on Flathead Lake for some time, and boy, I'll tell you, some of those storms would just tear things up. Do you find that's a problem here as well? Or does the stones just take care of that?
Winter storms do a lot of damage to the historic fabric. For example, the lighthouse in front of us here was falling into the lake last year. And through the support of Wells Fargo and a number of private and corporate donors, we were able to raise the money and keep that lighthouse from falling into the lake and rebuilt the base of the lighthouse. So that kind of preservation work we undertake continuously, year-round, and the majority of our preservation work occurs in the wintertime when we're closed to the larger groups.
Yeah. You're doing some outreach as far as preservation is concerned too, because as I look at the mountain in front of us there, near Incline, that's where the slough ran for the lumber coming down for the Comstock. And you said there's a building up there that you're involved in restoring, right?
Correct. The mountains in front of us, the Carson Range, has an intricate system of flumes that provided water to Virginia City through the old Virginia City Gold Hill Water Company. And that network of flumes had to be supported by flume tenders, and those flume tenders had homes, and there's a couple of historic homes back up there in those hills that are really in bad shape. And the Thunderbird team here is committed to preserving these types of structures throughout Wattell's land, and much of this was former Wattell land, and so we're participating in restoration efforts up in the Carson Range as well.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, yeah, and that's what we like to see is all these preservation societies kind of working together hand in hand.
That's correct.
To bring history back to you know, the folks that moved here maybe 20, 30, 40
Yeah,
years ago.
people are really participating and enjoying the facility here.
That's correct.
The memberships that you have help to preserve that, and I don't know where I joined before or not, but I will.
Yeah.
I heard it here.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Uroy's really good about that, supporting, you know, he practices what he preaches, that's for sure. And he's the one that brings our radio and TV show to...
Great supporter of Nevada history.
Yeah, a great supporter. We appreciate it very much. Yeah. So where do you go from here? It's a matter of maintaining, it's a matter of... getting the word out to bring more people up here?
Well, like many historic sites, we're a historic site at risk. These buildings might not be here if we cannot continue to maintain them to certain standards. It's a condition of our property reservation that we have to maintain the property to a certain standard. We have to care, we have to control our debt. And the best support that we can get from the public is have everyone come out and take a tour and become a member of the Thunderbird Lodge Preservation Society.
What about your need for docents or volunteers? Are you constantly trying to fill that need, or do you have an abundance of those? Or what?
We are always looking for volunteer docents or tour guides, gardeners, maintenance assistant, preservation craftsmen. I need a good stonemason.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I know where to go. Go to that Indian school.
Yeah.
One of the other programs we had on, Jim Bernard, he's
Yeah,
one
Jim
of the
Bernard's
docents
sitting here with us.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's people like him. He knows his stuff.
Jim Bonar and that group has done wonderful work with the Lincoln Highway Association.
Oh, yes, they
Oh, yeah.
have.
We've
No
had
doubt
Jim
about
on
it.
the air a couple of times.
I wound up being a member on account of him.
He's heading out to Kearney, what is that, Kearney, Nebraska? Or Kansas? Huh?
Nebraska.
Nebraska, yes. So,
Well, you had the Midwest down there.
yeah, I had the right area anyway. Big national meeting over there for the Lincoln Highway. So, and Lincoln Highway used to go right by here, darn close to here.
Well, not exactly in front by the front
not
door.
the front door, no.
You know, John, what Gilroy said all along to show pride in the state of Nevada, to become a member and support something like this, that's the way to show pride.
It does show pride, yeah, for
Yeah, we
people
can all bring
invest
something to
in
the table.
in
I
this
just talked
resource.
myself into being a member.
Great. We're glad to have you.
Yeah, put him on the gardening team, you know? But anyway, again, applications probably have to be filled out for being a docent, those kind of things.
Correct.
Working around kids.
Docents have to go through a background check, meet certain requirements for health and
Is there a
and so-
charge?
And no, there's really not. Docents, volunteers become members at our special introductory level for volunteers at $50 a year.
Okay.
And that covers our insurance for them and allows them to be part of the organization and go to the member events as well.
All right,
Great.
great. Well, that's super. And you know, this is such a jewel out here. It's the only thing on the east side of the lake that you can really take a look at. There is one on the other side, a rather large structure like this.
Well, there are 3 historic home sites on the California side, which are part of the U.S. Forest Service network or the California State Park system. There's the Ehrman Mansion at Sugar Pine Point, Vikings Home at Emerald Bay, and then the Valhalla Talac Historic Site at South Lake Tahoe.
Right. Okay. But this is the only thing on the east side, so make sure you take and visit us. You know?
We are,
Yeah.
and unlike those California sites, we're not government supported,
Hey.
and we're Nevada's only one.
There you go. Ever more reason to come out here.
You want to give me
That's
your phone
about all
number
the
one more
time we-
time? Or?
Yeah, that's about it. We give your website one more time.
Well, our website is www.thunderbirdtahoe.org, and our telephone number is 775-832-8750.
All right.
Great.
So make sure
Fantastic.
make it a trip up to Lake Tahoe. What did it take? It's
Yeah.
about 40 minutes to get up
Yeah.
here from
Short
Reno.
run.
Beautiful trip. So,
Yeah, it is.
Bill, thanks for being with us.
Oh,
today.
Yeah,
thank
we
you kindly.
appreciate it, Bill.
Thank you kindly all.
Nice to have you on the show.
And Neal and you, Roy, as usual.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. That was a lovely presentation. We appreciate you being here. Neal, do you have anything to add?
No, I just very uh, grateful to Bill Watson for letting us use that, and for you, Roy Marshall, making darn good and sure that you appreciate what the place you call home. This is Nevada is a very, very important, colorful state with every possible, uh, plus all four seasons, not 300 sunshiny days a year and the whole works. We're growing like a weed, but yet we're able to handle it. Miss old Reno, but things change.
Well, I don't see any questions in the chat, so Terry, I will hand it over to you.
Here I am. Well, it's been such an honor to have hosted this program. Thank you all for joining. And a heartfelt thanks to Christina with the Nevada Historical Society, historian Neal Cobb, and Tim, our library system tech wizard, for making this event possible. Have a great day.